Welcome to the last video. I hear cheering in the background. Anyway, it's hard to believe, of course, we're at the last. This is the fourth. This is sometime in the fourth week, depending on when you're looking at it. You will not get, by the way, you will not get a video in Module 5. Module 5 is where you show me what you have mastered. You will pull together all the aspects of what you've looked at, and you will have decided by now on giving you permission to use your own institution. It would be helpful if you went a little beyond just the job that you do, but your own institution, or if you have come to Morgan from another institution, or you have a friend there and you've worked with her or him, and you want to use that analysis. It shouldn't try to be the entire institution. That's, as they say about elephants. You can't eat an elephant all in one bite. So you can't do the entire institution, but pick out an area. It can be something about how another institution where you went as a student before Morgan, or a friend of yours is currently, you always talk about, is the grass greener on the other side of the fence or not? But time for your synthesis to be. I would like a short note on the paper that goes with this module that you tell me what exactly it is you're going to be working on. It makes my job just a little bit easier, and I would appreciate that. Okay, what I promised you in the last video is the issue of construction, physical development, the physical plan of the institution. I may be going over some old ground. About 2 months ago, 2 weeks to 6 months, 6 weeks. Let me say this clearly. From 1 month to 6 weeks ago, Dr. Wilson, when all these cuts were coming through because of the virus, sent a very long, I thought overly explanatory note on why you see construction going on around campus. Mainly that is because that money is funded in a different way. Being a public institution in Maryland, the Board of Governors has to approve whatever the project may be. That project is then submitted to the state of Maryland. And the state of Maryland, we're pretty good in Maryland, better than many states. Usually what they will say is Morgan or Coppin or College Park or whatever. You must put up a third of the operating cost of the construction. 2/3 will come through the state selling bonds to generate that money. Oftentimes Morgan can use, they do have a construction account. Morgan's been pretty successful in the way they've gotten their buildings done. The key judge for getting a building done well is it's designed on time and it comes in under budget. And so very often, and Morgan can't, with state permission, you can actually go out and sell bonds themselves. The problem with bonds is you have to pay interest on them and pay them back at some point. So anyway, that's the whole thing. You go in there to do that. I'll just quickly run through for you the nature of how the funding system works with budgets in Maryland for construction. Is about a 5-year process. You will submit something to the state. The first year, the state will essentially tell you, I used to say in Latin, nihil obstat, nothing obstructs your doing this. It falls within state law. So you can do that. And they say, okay, now put it together and develop a planning budget. Largely you go to an architectural firm. You may actually even have some architects that are working within the institution. Morgan has a department of architecture. Oftentimes they use those folks, and they use some of the graduate students in that department to give them real hands-on life experience. You take that in the second year, and if it's really well done, they will fund you planning money, which can be anywhere from 20 to 35% of the cost of the project. If they don't like what they see, however, and it's not clear, or they think it's not focused on the mission of the institution, or whatever reason they may come up with, they will send it back. But let's say you're doing real well. You went in with the first one, nothing abstained. You're in the second one, they like your planning budget. Then you do the next 3 years, you get a third, and a third of your money. That's why it is so very, very critical that, as I said in the last tape, that the budget, that the building come in on time, because there's always an added cost. You have to try to build in a guesstimate of what inflation is going to be in construction industry. That's hard to do. So if you start running over the contract to get the building done, you may not have, the state may not be willing to extend the extra money. I once involved with a college that was building a beautiful athletic and recreation center, and unfortunately, one of the funding sources got a little bit nervous, and they had to cut a percentage out of the budget that really made it more difficult for the institution to do what the mission of that building was to be. Unfortunately, the politicians were not as accurate as they thought they were. The building exceeded, even with its limited capacity, it exceeded what it said it would do, but there were some fundraising things it couldn't do. If we were together for an entire face-to-face, I bring that example up further. And then you go through and you finish the budget and so forth. One of the things that you see around the Morgan campus for parts of buildings or for entire buildings, like the library. I don't know if any of you were around when Dr. Richardson was around. I was privileged my first year to sit in on a class that he taught because he was bringing in senior HBCU college scholars from all over the country because he had quite a reputation. He was in the job for a quarter of a century, a little over a quarter of a century. But they named a building after him. Now, sometimes you get money for that, sometimes you don't. We just got another very large chunk of money for updating the student center by an alumnus of Morgan. And that helps. That's how you can go about getting that match that we talked about earlier that you have to put up to match the state dollars. So that's a very important thing. Now, the next one is another headache that we all face. It's called deferred maintenance. I put it in this part of the course because it has to do with facilities, physical facilities. We've been pretty good at Morgan. I've been at institutions where it was embarrassing how poorly maintained the institutions were. Morgan has done very, very well. My opinion, a little better under Wilson than under Richardson. And he probably wouldn't like me saying that, but when I came to the campus, it looked kind of shabby. Wilson has cleaned that up a bit. But that's one of the first areas they look when it comes to cut budget. We're just not going to do as good a job of maintaining everything. And that can be very serious. Right now, I think Morgan is doing well. I have not seen, because I'm far enough down the totem pole, sometime by September, Dr. Wilson will make a report to us on what the state approved in terms of the cut that we faced due to the virus. And we'll get that, and then we'll be in a position to deal with, is that going to affect maintenance? One institution where I was, where things were very tight. Some of us, I literally worked with a colleague of mine, and we came in on Saturdays, and we emptied waste baskets for one floor of that building. We even washed the floors and washed windows. It was a school that it did very well. It was in 3 years, it was in its third year. Things were a little tight with enrollment, but we did well the next couple of years, and all that stuff stopped, which I'm very glad that it did. Not afraid of maintenance work, but full-time teaching was enough for me for that time. That's another story we would talk about later if we wanted to. One thing I always throw out about this point, because it's fascinating, if you can include that as a little aside, or just send me an email. If you've been at your institution for more than a couple of years, what is the status of deferred maintenance? If you've been there like 5 years, but you've got some friends that have been there longer, just chat with them. How clean are the floors? How often do the baskets get emptied? How hard is it to get equipment maintenance? One thing that bothers a lot of our students, a lot of my colleagues, there's never enough toilet paper in the restrooms. Well, after this battle we just went through with the virus thing, people buying enough toilet paper for years, I'm afraid. I had a father-in-law like that. But I guess he grew up in the Depression or what have you. That shows my age. Okay, enough about that. Be aware that this will be an impact on all of us, because when they start the design for a building, the people who will have to live in that building are fairly likely. I can't name an institution I've ever been associated with where the people who had to live in the building weren't at least involved to a certain extent in talking about what they needed to do the job well, the job that they're in there to do. Okay, enough about that. Now, wrapping it up on this particular topic, and how, if you have changed your topic for your synthesis/analysis, or if you have any concerns or questions, You've got now about 10 days till it's due. I would really appreciate if you're having problems, give me a call, send me a text, send me an email, because I don't. One of the things about Morgan, they're very, very, very tight when it comes to grade deadlines. And the one thing that I will not do, we have got the worst, absolutely the worst incomplete pass process of any school I've ever worked at, and I've been in this business with, okay, let it. I started working in higher education in 1965, and I haven't interrupted it. I've been consistently involved since 65, and I've never seen an institution. I've been with full-time 7 institutions, part-time another 5 or 6, and also served on accrediting teams for a good number of Middle States visits. And I will tell you that this is the most draconian incomplete process. So I just don't give them. It's too much of a headache for you, too much of a headache for me. So call me if you have any problems. Email me if you have any problems. It's been a great course. It was great fun working with you. One of the things I always tell my friends, I happen to have a pretty good understanding of Chinese culture. My son married a lovely Chinese girl, and I wondered why she was being so standoffish with us early on when they were dating and then engaged. And what I subsequently discovered in the Chinese culture is that once you affiliate with the family, that affiliation lasts for life. So they're a little easy in how much of that they do. So mine is just the reverse. I have a great commitment to Morgan. I have a great commitment to my students. If there's anything I can do after you've completed the course, moved on to another course, or working on a dissertation, let me know. Frankly, it's for the same reason I told you in tape 1. I expect to learn. It's the best way in the world for me to learn. As recently as this week, as you know, what you end up doing is you pass your exams and you submit a proposal and you defend the proposal to your committee. We did one of my students from some years ago. She's in an area of great interest to me personally. I worked with it several different places in my professional career. I haven't worked in it for a while, but working with her is going to be exciting and stimulating. And at my age, you need to be excited and stimulated, or your arteries are going to harden and you'll be sitting on a rocking chair somewhere, drooling on your bib. And I don't look forward to that. So anyway, thank you for all the good stuff you've done. I really look forward to reading these synthesis analysis jobs that you're going to do. And again, for the 4th time, if you need anything, just contact me.